Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Connect the Dots, where through cancer season, we are exploring the rising need and celebration of sitting in ceremony or invoking ceremony in various different parts of our lives. So I, I first learned how to sit in ceremony with Native elders. So these are the First Nations, and through them, I was introduced to the medicine wheel. The medicine, when ceremony starts, it is common in this practice to invite or draw in the elements. And I remember the first several times sitting in ceremony, feeling like something really incredible and powerful was happening. But in my own immaturity, newness, and naiveness at the time, I just thought it's a quote unquote spiritual thing to do, to call in directions, call in elements. And it took probably my first several hundred ceremonies of both sitting in them and invoking them myself to actually start to feel why this was so profound, why this was so important, what the intelligence apparatus of ceremonies was, and how it was, what it was shifting in me, and what it was allowing in me. And so today I wanted to share a little bit about that. And the deeper I went and sat in different ceremonies, in different traditions, in different schools of thought, both ancient and newer, I found that there was a commonality. Almost all ancient traditions have a relationship, an intelligent and active relationship with the four elements, right? The core elements that animate life on Earth. And certainly, as I'm sure you're aware, those elements are fire, earth, air, and water. And this forms the basis of alchemy. This forms the basis of, the native medicine wheel. It forms the basis of Ayurveda and yoga, which are sister sciences, sister practices. TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, as well as all aspects of Western alchemy, right? Like this is herbalism, astrology, just the base operating elements. And this intelligence that I speak of, that's sort of what I wanted to talk about, because when we invite the elements in, and it's done in the context of having ceremony, it's done in the context of holding a desire to relate to something, intend something, accept something, there is a special potency. And so let's look at why. I understand the human form as an animation of the four elements, as well as the human and divine soul. Like that's what makes humans what we are, right? Like we have the earth element, which is our physical body, the waters, the liquids of our being. That's, obviously the element of water. The fire is like our spirit, our creative drive, right? The propulsion of all our systems, right? Like digestive fires, mental fires, and the element of thought, connection, how our hormones in the gut talk to our brain, right? Like the entire connectivity, communication, and that's the air element. And so when we're looking at elements, it absolutely helps to look at the individual elements and look at all aspects, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, that these elements are associated with. But that's not all, because elements exist in a cycle of progression. There's a dance, and that is part of what I call their intelligence. And this is the intelligence of our life process. So when we start to feel, when we start to relate to working with the elements that are both within us and around us, we start being able to connect the dots, if you will, on what these relational aspects of the self are. And this is really helpful when we are trying to figure out our way through life, figure out what we're feeling, the truth of what we're feeling, why we're feeling what we're feeling, things like that. So, I'll give you an example. So it's cancer season. right now, kicked off a couple of weeks ago now when the summer solstice happened. Now, it's hot, it's summer. We all are probably feeling, really active. Plans are being made. We're out a lot more. And this is lovely, right? It's heaty, it's active. But Cancer season is the element of water. And think about how important it is to stay hydrated, stay moisturized. So physically, when we're out in the summer, it's a weekend, we're planning our day in the beach, then we're going to go to this outdoor concert, and then we're going to meet some friends and have some dinner. We might find that our mind kind of runs away with things, right? We might plan like 15 different activities, but then we're so zonked, we're so tired all of a sudden. And that's because it's hot out. And oftentimes we forget to hydrate appropriately, right? And so this requirement of water in the simple moment of, moisturizing our skin, if it's too like dry or flaky, or it's getting really red, right? Like skin inflammation, or the inflammation that occurs within the body, within the cells, because we are drying out and heating up at a much faster rate than we're probably used to. Plus we're doing a lot, right? Which creates more heat. And so we require the water, the mechanism, the element of water to then put us into flow, hydrate us, cool us down, calm us down. So a lot of times there is an association that because it's hot, it's summer, we feel really irritable, or maybe others around us are irritable. And I would say, drink some water, right? Like this is the beauty of the spirituality in the moment. Sometimes when we're overheated, we just need to hydrate better. But that's physically. Spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, water actually does similar things, right? This was taught to me in alchemy school, right? So there is a progression of elements, which is very easy to see in astrology. When the zodiac wheel starts, when it's spring, it starts in a fire sign associated with the zodiacal sign of Aries. And so we see the same progression repeat itself: fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. And the sequence of progression is really important because Aries, being fire, ignites something, initiates something new. When something is new, it requires earthly sustenance, which is where the earth element comes in. It requires mass and accumulation of nourishment, nutrition, something to give it life, give it body. And then after that, when it has some of that, then it can sort of expand and share. And you can probably see some parallels with gardening, right? If you planted some seeds at the end of March, and now in Aries season you have the seed that turns into a sprout, it initiates upwards towards the sun, right? Towards warmth and heat. And then the roots start to absorb nourishment from the soil. It makes it bigger and thicker. Then by the time we come, and that's like the earth, the Taurus season, then by the time we shift into Gemini season, you have some leaves, you have photosynthesis happening, you might have some early buds and flowers, and that is expression, that is communication, that is relationship with the wind, the birds, the sun itself, right? And again, throughout this whole process, obviously we require water. But then after this whole cycle, the last of the main elements is water. And this is the fluidity, the movement, the requirement to expand a plant's roots even more so that it can draw up both earth-based material, minerals as needed, as well as water. Humans are really similar. And so psychologically, this is how I understand it. Summer is hot, action-based, heaty. These can be seen as, in the diagram of yin and yang, the dance that is the animation of life. Summer is more a yang activity, right? Like we're out there, we're doing things, but we require yin. We require constant hydration. We require shade. We require rest. we require moisture. We may want to drink a lot more water and then take a plunge into, like, our rivers and our oceans and our lakes, things like that. We seek water in times of heat, in times of warmth. And this actually helps counterbalance some of that inflammation and exhaustion, both physically as well as mentally and emotionally. So let's look at psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? One of the things that water does in alchemy, and we can understand this if we look at hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen and oxygen are elements that are in the atmosphere. So that's the air of us. And they are elements required in fire, right? So for fire to burn, it requires oxygen and hydrogen. And the mechanism, the ecstatic relationship between these molecules in the element of air and fire are more, well, as I mentioned, ecstatic. Hydrogen and oxygen are also the elements that make up water, but they exist in a more receptive relationship with one another. The molecules do. And so in a sense, in alchemy, when you have fire and air, which are sort of upward, heat giving, activating, water is the element that sort of brings both of them down to earth. And this is where we get the connectivity, the element of connectivity with regards to the relationship with water. And so, in spiritual traditions, water is used from, of course, hydration, but we utilize the element of water for cleansing, for purification, for connection. A lot of death rituals, for example, it is the element of surrender, where we surrender our beloved people. Water as an element offers a sense of containment, which is why in the progression of the elements, it's the last one. After water comes fire. Again, the cycle starts. So what does that mean for us in the, when we're talking about why it's important in ceremony? When we think of human consciousness, when we think of where we are on an average day, the concept of self as a felt intelligence, as a feeling of who I am today, what I am feeling, what I am moving through in terms of emotional body, all of this sort of comes under the dominion of the element of water, and quite specifically, the zodiac archetype of Cancer, which is the first or cardinal water sign in the wheel of the zodiac. So it's almost like it's the first time in human consciousness that we are getting to know ourselves. We are getting to understand ourselves through feeling. I want to take a moment to discern the difference between feeling as the raw expression of what is present versus being lost in our emotional body because we're caught up in a repetitive story, either a future anxiety or a past worry. Right? So this is not about that. That actually engages more of the mind. The element of Cancer, the zodiac sign of Cancer, the energetic imprint is the concept of knowing the self through feeling. And feeling is that raw experience, almost like a 2-year-old child, where when they laugh so abundantly, where they cry, like everything they feel is so massive because they are in pure, raw expression of whatever it is that they're going through, right? And so when we understand, when we have gnosis, when we slowly build the intelligence of what it feels like, what our raw truths in the moment actually feel like, without running into the mind, without creating stories, we are actually in a place where fantasy, anxieties, past associations, and again, all these stories that we might tell ourselves sort of don't exist anymore. So there's a great wisdom in containment. And I say containment because just before Cancer was the season of Gemini, which is the air element, which is a lot of our thoughts and a lot of our beliefs. And so now, after we've had all that in Cancer season, we can come to feel what it actually feels like in the moment, right? And this is that whole intelligence. And I call it intelligence because intelligence is the result of a relationship that we have, a continued, constant relationship that we have when we bring our awareness and our consciousness to something, right? If I've never met you, it's my absolute first time. We might get to spend some time knowing each other. And once we know each other, there becomes an intelligence in how I relate to you and you relate to me. And I use this word purposely because I work in tech and we are obviously in the era of artificial intelligence. So to me, relational intelligence is one of those things that an algorithm cannot replicate well, right? Because in relationship with one another, we have so many ways of we have so many non-verbal, non-tangible ways of expressing the truth of how we're feeling in a moment. Facial expressions, physically, the body, like if I'm really keenly interested in what you have to say, or if I'm like, I don't know about this, and I'm physically moving back. There's a million and one cues that as humans we pick up on. And this is a muscle that we build over time because we relate to other people, because we have a relationship with life that teaches us how we are responding versus reacting. And so what does this have to do with ceremony? And specifically the element of water. So one of the gifts of ceremonies is building this type of intelligence where we take a moment outside of time in our day of our choosing, making it as elaborate or as simple as it needs to be. And we come into relationship, come into connection with all aspects of ourselves and all aspects of ourselves as they are in relationship to one another. And anyone who's been in a fight or an argument knows what this is, right? You feel like you have everything under control, then someone says something, you get triggered, you maybe devolve into certain nervous system reactions, maybe you fight, maybe you freeze. And what actually happens between two people sort of is a sequence, a progression of activities, a progression of choices that we are making, conscious or unconscious. The big medicine, one of the many medicines of ceremony, one of the gifts is that we can hold ceremony for ourselves and have this container where we have the time and the space to figure out what our progression of relationship is. And the elements are a really beautiful way of coming into relationship with that, both the elements that exist within us and certainly the elements that exist around us. One of the other things is when we allow the progression of elements, as I mentioned, earth, if we want to do something, we have a dream, we have an idea, perhaps, or we have an intention, perhaps we can see that as the ignition, the fire of our being. Now, in order to make that happen, we have to take some practical steps in the world. The practicality is the material, the earth element. And then we might have to tell people about it. We might have to share it in some way, shape, or form. And that becomes the air element. So that's the progression from fire to earth to air. And now, before we go off and do something else, our receptive element, the waters of us, that fourth element in the progression, is receiving that which we have created as a way to pivot, figure out if this is the thing we actually want, or simply sit and enjoy it. Right? That is another quality of water, which is why we like beaches and oceans so much, because water receives us with complete abandon, right? Whether we plunge in, whether we slowly go in, whether we're diving, whether we're doing water, sport activities. And so that progression of the elements helps us to bring more awareness, bring more conscious intelligence into our life processes so that when we start something, we also enjoy it. We also end it. And then that gets composted into our other dreams, our other life processes. And this is sort of that coming back to the wisdom of alchemy in a really beautiful way. And I want to actually talk about what this means in the concept of ceremony, because it can mean different things to different people. But for me personally, I hold ceremonies for my own self almost every day. And generally, it is a space where I am able to accept where I am now. And again, this is that element of water where we feel into where we are now, and we start to over time build a muscle that helps us not default into patterns like running away, abandoning something, freaking out, being anxious. Those are all human reactions to things. But in the land of, walking a spiritual path to realizing the more beautiful parts of us, the more graceful parts of us, we can shift from reaction to response. And the space, the liminal space, the in-between space of ceremony, when we draw in the elements, allows us to accept the progression as well as the realities of where we are at. Where is our energy? Where are our thoughts? Where are our feelings? Where is our physical body in reference to everything else? And create a stronger and stronger way of handling whatever life throws at us without being too caught in the chaos of it. That's the dream. But working towards it, I think, is really fruitful, really, really beneficial. And it absolutely has been for me. And so, because it is Cancer season, we're in our second week. We are coming up to some really powerful astrological transits next week, along with the full moon. And so this week, I'll offer this as an invitation. If you feel called to, think about whatever your current favorite relationship with water is. Maybe it's, drinking a soda. Maybe it's watering your plants, or, taking a bath, brushing your teeth, or going to the beach. Whatever it is, it could be, washing your vegetables before cooking. Choose one simple activity that uses the element of water, something you already do, and see if you can enjoy it. See if you can slow it down, maybe even by 40% or 50%. If you were to, brush your teeth or wash your face, whatever your activity is, if you were to do it slightly slower and feel the water, those external waters, if you're washing your hands or if you're taking a shower, and draw some awareness to what your inner feeling body, felt sense is doing. And see if you can let it be exactly what it is. No story, no judgment, no ifs, and it should be this or it should be something else. No superfluous worry on, oh, it's this and it should really be something else. So if you can draw your awareness into feeling exactly where you are and let yourself conduct whatever activity, whatever water-based activity you're doing, I imagine it'll be really nourishing for you in very surprising ways. I like to do this like in the shower or in the bath, right? Because moving water just has like a really lovely feel to it. And then it also reminds me that our felt sense and our emotions are in motion. It's in the word, energy in motion, emotion. And so our issues, our resistance, our difficulty, our density with emotions is that we lock them into patterns. And so we want it to flow, like how shower water flows out, washes and cleanses our body, and then goes down the drain. So that might be a very helpful place. And it might be as simple as the next time you're washing your face and touching your skin and feeling everything from temperature, texture, viscosity to how your skin feels, right? Like on a summer's day, like hot and sweaty, and we suddenly feel so quickly refreshed. That is material, and our skin might feel that. And there is an opportunity. And this is where the beauty of ceremony comes in, because what we're inviting in is the celebration of our consciousness into whatever activity we're doing. So I hope this video meets you where you are today. Thank you for joining me live. And I wish you the hydration, the moisture, the nourishment, and the absolute joy of the water element this summer. Have a beautiful day.